Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Hangout at Dome with Her World. Today, I'm really, I know it's weird to say I'm excited to talk about it, but I am very excited to talk about this topic because I think it's so important. Okay, maybe I say that about every topic, but every topic is very important. But today, most importantly, is I have my star guest here today. Dr. Hartini, who's our, let me get this right, child right activist. I don't want to get it wrong. Sheerin Khan, who's our representative from OrphanCare. Katyana Azman, our child psychologist from Pantai Hospital. And we have one more guest coming. I will introduce you to her when she arrives. Don't worry, she will be here. She's on the way. I see you. Anyway, hot topic for today, especially after the big statement made by our Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Wan Azizah. We are talking about child marriages. So if you've been following the news, you've been updating yourself, I think you would want to stay and watch. I think we will try to cover as much possible in the half an hour that we have. Usually half an hour is not enough. I've noticed this. But we will try.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to just start with the reaction of the statement. Okay, we know that the newspaper that ran the story messed up its headline, said the statement, and then they retracted and they retitled their headline. But I want to hear from Dr. Hartini first. What was your initial reaction actually?
My initial reaction was
Yeah.
was unfortunately very reactive, I guess.
So you read the first headline?
I read the first headline and went, oh my goodness, no. You know, it cannot end like this. And it was like one of those bad breakups. Like, this cannot be over. And you know, and I thought it was wrong. But I was so happy and went with the retraction and went on social media and said, you know, yay, that this isn't the end. That this is just a process.
First step, right?
It's a first step in a process, and it will end in banning child marriage. And there is an end goal, and the end goal is doing away with something which infringes on the rights of children.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that.
Shirin, were you following the news?
Oh, yes.
Of course, right? Hard not to follow, right?
Exactly. The initial surprise of it all was like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back.
Yeah.
Where are we headed actually? But thankfully, now we know.
Yeah.
So a little bit more calmer. And we know that at least we know something's happening, and hopefully it ends the way it should. But I think we have the right people on board to push it through. So I guess have faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katyana?
I think for me it was very much similar to Dr. Tini when I read it, and I was just like, I get so affected whenever I see titles that have, I mean, you understand that sometimes they have to get really catchy titles to get your attention.
Yeah.
But then when it was, retracted, I went, yeah, but people are not focusing on the impact of titles like that and what kind of message that sends to certain communities or certain demographics that won't do the additional research, that won't actually click into the link and read about it.
Yeah.
So just the title and the effect of it. But I think that this is the fact that we're talking about it, the fact that we're addressing it is amazing, because this is something that's going against decades of culture and just programming, and the fact that we're addressing it now is great. Really, really, really brave and really, really great, in my opinion.
Okay. I want to jump into something that I feel like, when we read about child marriages, we often, read news that are about 40-year-old men who are marrying 11, 13-year-old kids. Yes. We forget that when we talk about child marriages, I think I read in our other guest that's coming is Cleo editor Lina Esa, and Cleo ran a story with a lot of facts and details, numbers and statistics. So they mentioned also that when it's correct me if I'm wrong, it's kids under the age of 18.
Yes.
So you're considered a child.
Yeah.
We forget that children marry children also.
Most
like
of
the
the
teens,
cases,
like the 17-year-old who marry the 16-year-old or the 16 marrying 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So those are child marriages as well. I just want to ask Katyana, for teens, you know, how does that affect them? You know, when we talk about child marriages, and I mean, in general, we kind of do dismiss the fact that teens marry teens. We're so focused.
I don't
you know,
process that.
Yeah, it's not something that you would immediately think of, right? When you talk about child marriages, you're always, like you said,
you
imagining.
think about, you know, this older man marrying a younger girl or
Yeah.
things like that. We forget
I
that.
wonder whether it's because, again, if we go back to the influence of the media, whether topics like those are more sensationalized
Of course.
versus,
Of
you
course,
know,
of course.
the
Of
ones
course.
of teens versus married
Yeah.
teens.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I talk about this quite a lot about, you know, when looking at teenagers, a lot of people tend to assume they're just young adults.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
name suggests. But what we often forget is that neurologically, there's a lot of hardware issues in the sense where there's a lot of you know, developmental things going on, at which point, you know, the part of the brain that actually controls what makes us a functional adult, organizational skills, emotional regulation, planning, understanding of long-term consequences, all of that is housed in one part of the brain, which remains predominantly disconnected from the rest of your neurology until you're almost 30.
Okay.
It's actually
Wow.
kind of, so that part kind of like your entire brain develops at 90% when you hit about 5 years old. Then it kind of slows, and that part of the brain continues gradually until you hit adulthood. And so a lot of the faculties that you would require to make responsible, logical, sound decisions are housed in that are controlled by that part of the brain, which are predominantly immature when we look at teenagers. So we look at that group of young people as being immensely impressionable, immensely influenced by, you know, the counsel of others, by peer pressure, by what society expects. And so when we look at the topic of child marriages or children marrying children, I feel that there's always the influence of, or at least I ask myself, what are the adults in the room saying? Right? What are the types of conversations being had in the room around these young people that is making them kind of feel that is their only out, or that is their own, you know, that is an acceptable reaction. So those are the types of things that I feel is often not considered when we look at you know, child marriage with, you know, between teenagers.
Okay. So, at OrphanCare, right? I mean, that's why when Dr. Tini asked me who have I invited as guests, and I said, you know, Sheerin from OrphanCare, and Katyana, child psychologist, and Lina because of the coverage she did on child. But you said you did mind maps, right?
Yeah, my mind.
Mind maps to
I'm
sort of
crazy. Yeah.
figure out what the issue is.
Yeah.
When we talk about child marriage, what is your biggest concern actually? What is the concern? What is your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is that teenagers, children, who find themselves in that position of, or feeling that their only option is to get married if they get pregnant, etc., or because they're madly in love and they don't understand, and you know, they think they want to be with someone for the rest of their lives, that the only option for them is to get married. For me, I think that is the biggest crime, very much so because of what you said, but also very much because they're just not prepared in any way, shape, or form to, you know, to go on this new adventure, this new set of, you know, life, or this different phase in life, and that the message we're sending is, if you get married, if you fall in love, if you don't want to do anything that's deemed inappropriate, get married, then you can do all of these things. And that for me, it's like Blue Lagoon or something. You know, if you remember that movie. I mean, it's so completely off and it's scary because we know what the impact of child marriage is after they get married. We know that lots of these relationships end up in divorce. That the woman usually is left with the child. And that they're single mothers at very young age with no education and no work experience and no work. You know, we know that, you know, we know what happens in most of these cases.
But that's the thing.
And it scares me because of that whole notion.
I
Get
think
pregnant,
also-
get married.
Yeah.
If you get pregnant
And
and you don't get married, you have no options.
They promote that.
Yeah.
They promote that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the elders, the religious faculties, and everyone.
There's so much connotation with the word shame.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's taboo,
Exactly.
shame,
I
you
remember.
know?
I mean, I remember speaking to this young girl, and she was considering considering getting married at under the age of 18. And then when I asked her, why is it that she felt that, because she had dreams to go to university, and again, it's very much like, oh, if I get married, I have to drop out of school, I have to be a housewife. And so I was sitting down and having a chat with this girl, and one of the things that really struck me was that she said, it's because I've been with, she'd known this boy since she was like 12, and they'd kind of been casually together for like 4 or 5 years. And she'd said that malu kepada mak bapak sebab dah lama. You know what I mean? And that really stunned me, because I was like, wow.
So you're not allowed to have friends.
It's like if you're together for too
long, then it's
embarrassing.
expected.
It's like it's embarrassing onto the family, or it's expected. So that was really interesting, and this was something that happened in KL. So I thought it was like,
I've met young girls who are pregnant and stuff, and they say the same along the same line. Well, I went up with someone for a long time, and then we broke up. And then I met this person, and he was a friend, and he showed me a lot of love, and I accidentally slept with him, and we got pregnant, so I'm marrying him. And I just think, what? No, I'm like, what about school? What about everything else?
Your future.
What do you? Oh, I'm still going to school. I'm still going to go to school. I went, okay, but I haven't told my parents that I'm pregnant, and I go. And she's like, can you help me? And I was like, can I help you tell your parents? Like, yes. Which I find myself in that position, having to tell. Because, I also am very aware that the issue on teen pregnancy is also connected very strongly to baby dumping and child marriage and everything else. And I know the fear, and I know the stress, and I'm aware of what's going on in this young girl's head, because I've met enough to know, they think that these are the only options. Get married, have an abortion, or give up the baby, but never in the first 3 years go back to school, stay in school, where my support system is going to. It's not even
in their vocabulary, or even in
which
their
it
mind.
should be, right? It should be like,
But the
what are my
people around
options?
them don't even advocate that,
Or the fear of not telling an adult, because you found me on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, and you think, oh, I can call this NGO, but even then they're not quite sure where to go until it's 5-6 months pregnant, and they have no idea what to do.
I wonder if it's just like, I think we've mentioned this earlier, it's just the lack of reliable and resources that can actually tell these young women or these teenagers who are going through something like this, like where to go and what to do, what your
I think
options
even
are.
then, it's just the first step. Or you can call the NGO, you can call someone for the advice, but having to physically go there, for them it's like,
out of the
then
question,
someone's
right?
going to see me, someone's going to know, and you can put me and this whole problem together
And
in one whole.
Another question, because of the whole cultural, religious, traditional element, am I going to get arrested?
Yes.
Am I going to jail? And you know what? The truth of the matter is, they are.
That's the thing.
They are.
That's the
They
thing
will
that,
if you don't
that blows
come up-
my mind.
If you don't come up with them, and I know it's not a law, I will say that, but it is a practice. If you're under 21, not even a child, 21, 22, young single girl delivering a baby in government hospitals, they can, and they have, and they will call the religious department and say, you have had a child born out of wedlock. Who's going to take care of you? They call the parents, whatever it is. That's how the parents find out. Or you need a guardian or someone to take you, or they can arrest you for having a child born out of wedlock. Everybody says, no, that's not true. I'm like, I've done enough of these cases over the years. They do it. They
Just
do it.
because it's not a law doesn't mean it's not happening.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Especially in rural areas.
I think that's the backlash that everybody, that's the reason for
The
baseline.
fear.
That's the reason, the fear that everyone will find out, and at the end of the day, the religious
shame.
department,
Yeah.
this is shame, and they don't just shame you; they shame everyone around you.
And your family, your
Yeah.
parents.
So I mean,
It's
I don't.
so
To a certain
wrong.
extent, I don't blame them at all, because the burden of
At
shaming
14.
my family. Everybody is going to go down with me.
Okay, I'm just going to pause and bring Lina in. Lina is
Hi,
here.
Lina.
Morning.
Lina is, if you can see,
I
Lina
love your
is the
t-shirt.
editor of Cleo.
Oh, I love your t-shirt.
So I'm gonna bombard Lina straight away because she's late, right? But
Thank you so much for having me.
of course, no problem.
Being on this panel of esteemed women.
Oh my God, I
Wow.
forgot to thank you. Thank
No,
you.
please don't.
Thank you. I like what you said.
Thank you for accepting it.
Okay.
Many dome outlets.
Okay, and now somebody's playing an announcement
There
thing.
is
Never
this-
mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lina ran the story with Cleo online, and yeah, and in the magazine, and they ran a lot of stats as well, which was something that, you know, shocked me to the core to find out that worldwide, I took a bit out here. Worldwide, 23 girls a minute are married.
What?
Worldwide.
Those are
23
pretty-
girls a minute.
That's crazy.
That is crazy to
That's
think about it.
crazy.
A minute. We sit here, we talk, beep, beep, beep.
Sorry.
Like for real, 23 girls are like,
It's crazy.
yeah.
yeah.
And when we did sort of publish those numbers, there was some not backlash, but there were comments from our readers saying how it's such an Islamic thing. It's They said it's because of Malay culture. And then I did attend. I was invited to a forum by the UNICEF at ISIS Malaysia, and and then they did research, and apparently it doesn't discriminate between
Yeah.
the culture. It
Yeah.
is solely based on your socioeconomic position.
Okay.
So it is the lower income group because they have less access to education
Hmm.
and being empowered and knowing.
So how do we get to these kids? Yeah.
Can I just make one
Yeah.
comment? Slavery was also culturally and traditionally accepted, and we've done away with slavery. So I don't understand the logic if we go along that same
Yeah.
line that child marriage is traditional culture. We can't do away with it. It's a mind shift, and we got to get out of it. And it's
Yeah.
been proven. So please, if we can abolish slavery, we can abolish this. I
course.
just this.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of mind shift that needs to happen with it as
Yeah,
well.
I mean,
you know.
like, get over it, adults. You know, you don't get to control and just, you know, empower the young
Yeah.
and let them make choices.
But adults were once teens as well.
But they forget.
They forget. Huh?
Hello.
Yes.
No, but you know, I would never do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, your option cannot be you get pregnant, you fall in love, get married.
ABC. You can't.
All
And-
right, you
and I
fall in
think-
love, you fall in love.
And I think whatever decision you choose to make, if you are
Yeah.
able to deal with it, you
fine.
should be okay.
Yes,
You know,
but stay in
nobody else
school.
should be able to judge you for whatever decision. Just for you know, just for the
Yeah.
sake of saying, like, if someone chooses abortion or someone chooses to go on contraceptive pills,
Yeah.
that's
That we really need that mind shift.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I know Tini is like, oh, you know,
No, but I mean, of course, but you know, they're going to say kebudayaan, you know, orang Western is very different from kebudayaan kami. Kebudayaan is about what's best for the child. Let's not forget the main purpose here.
I
The
think
main
we have
purpose
to
is
take
in-
the culture out of it.
Just take
Yeah.
it. That
Yeah.
kebudayaan
Just
is
take the whole
just
thing.
take that out.
That's a whole-
What are our
that's the way we
values?
live. Yeah.
What are our values? Do we value our
Exactly.
children or not?
Yeah.
You
I
know.
wonder if this is like the one time where being in a community-based environment, as compared to like very individualistic in Western countries, in Asian countries, we're all community-based,
Yeah.
and I feel like in instances like this, it's where it fails because you're so concerned about
What
even if
other
we,
people
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
even if you have forward-thinking parents who are saying no, I will not condemn my children to this, or I will not condone this, but then they have all the makciks from next door and the family members who are just like and so it's because of that I wonder whether the parents are subject to peer pressure,
Of
whether the
course.
children,
Yeah.
and so it's just times like this I'm like, you know what, like being in a community-based environment has always been something that's great, but in moments like this it's just like,
But don't you feel that if just one community has a mind shift,
Yeah.
it will trickle. You know, it will then,
Yeah.
trickle.
You
and
have
then
the
more-
other 900 going, no, that's not the way.
You know, I just have these flashbacks of black and white movies I've seen like from before going, Malu, Malu, Malu. You know, and I don't mean to make fun of it. It's very much a reality. But it's got to stop. Because, you know, our numbers of teen pregnancies are so high. The numbers of applications for child marriage is so high. We're a small country, right? 30% of our population are young people. You don't want them going around thinking, oh my God, if I get pregnant, if I fall in love, get married, get married, get married. What about the skills that you need and the options that you have, because you don't have enough yet education, because you don't learn enough, because you don't know enough.
And
you
because
know?
of all these factors, you have
Yeah.
baby abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
yes, when we
yes.
have, you don't want to tell anybody, you can wear the baju lapo and
Yeah.
everything,
And they don't
cover
know.
everything up. And then when it comes to the time, they don't know what to do. And
You
in the
don't want-
panic situation, this is what happens.
And
The baby dumping,
and then go a
yeah.
level up. It's also linked to like the number of teen suicides or girls taking their own life because they
the
do
cutting.
not know, or cutting self harm. And so and the thing that I know we're probably going off topic a little bit, but the thing that I guess concerns me as a psychologist with regards to the narratives that it's taken is the fact that it's often a lot of blame towards the girl. Like
The guys always seem to get off, right? I know better, but I'm
sorry, I
like,
didn't mean to like
Yes,
bring that
yes,
up.
I
exactly,
agree.
it's true. And we forget the boy is also a child, but
Yeah.
it's always like, what happened to the boy? How come he didn't get punished?
Yeah.
And
girls
you know,
are
Actually, what happens to the
oh
guys?
my God, nothing.
Nothing.
At 15, can a teenage boy support his
Of course
family?
not.
Of course
not,
right?
no.
Of course not. He's by the time he's 16, he's already divorced and run off.
And so here's the thing,
No.
it's like, I've read we talked about how there's, the child marriages between like adults and young
Yeah.
girls. And if you read that, like the arguments that are coming up that goes, oh, we're protecting her. We're doing this because we don't want her to be too wild. It's all
Yeah.
about the shame of the girl. Like, oh, you have to marry the pregnant girl off because it's embarrassing for her and so it's like, I feel like there's so much language that points at it
Yes.
being like you are a shameful creature and we are protecting you from society. And so when I read stuff like that from a psych perspective, I'm so concerned with regards to the tones and the language that we're exposing these young girls to, where they feel that they need to repent or that they're somehow
Yeah.
that's kind of what always
And that's
sticks out
exactly
with me.
it. The girl has to be rehabilitated after the pregnancy, after if she's found
And the
out
guy goes off to get
No,
more
nothing.
kids pregnant, right?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
100% of the time,
Yeah.
the men,
Yeah.
the boys.
I want to ask if you're watching us on Facebook.
Forgot we're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot about that as
Yeah,
well.
everyone
Yeah.
forgot already. I'm gonna just ask if you have any questions for Katyana, Sheerin, Lina, or Dr. Tini. Do write a comment. I'm checking it as we chat. So far, Dorian Wild has commented that my biggest concern is that we're still debating this. And then
Yes.
he says, I'm just going to summarize because it's quite long, and blah, 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 blah. He says, there is no reason for children to be married until they can provide informed consent to be with another person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we agree with you.
Absolutely
Yeah.
agree.
I'm going to ask Katyana just a bit more. What are the right things to say for parents, I'm curious
So
now.
to say to parents
No,
or to
from parents
for
to
say-
teens if
Yeah.
they find out their teens are pregnant. Because one thing Tini says is
Yeah.
that they always have this mindset that, okay, if I get pregnant, that means I should be married off to my boyfriend or something like that. But what can we advise parents? I want to give some solution out there. I hope that we can share some.
I feel like it's a very interesting question because I've had conversations such as these with parents, right? And a lot of them are like, I don't want my daughter or my son to have to get married, because someone got pregnant or stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel like that's what society expects of me.
okay.
So in that moment, if I could give any advice to parents, it's be like, put yourself in that young child's shoes and ask yourself, if you were on the receiving end of this if you were the topic of this conversation, what would you expect or what would you hope the adults in your life to say to you? I mean, I'm just imagining being accepting is one thing, like not kind of calling you like shame on you, shame on your cow, kind of like whole, sorry, it's a blood reference, I'm sorry, but yeah, it's like that whole concept of feeling like you are a disgrace to the family, like just being very because I think that's one of the biggest fears with teenagers coming forward is the fact that your parents are going to just make you feel worse than you probably already do,
Yeah.
and so I often tell parents, I'm like, put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in that position and ask yourself, would it be helping you if you were on the receiving end of being berated to the end of your days and being told that you are this horrible person, being told that your options are either marriage, drop out of school, or
Give up the
baby, or we hide you in some, hippie commune somewhere, right?
Not
Yeah.
a cave.
Or a cave.
Correct.
And so I think that practicing empathy is something that's
So important.
but so lacking.
And
Yeah.
so I think also parents just completely forget what they were like
Like
When
as
children,
teenagers.
teens, right?
They take this
That's-
whole
that's
I've
the
always
thing.
been
I
a
say,
parent
but,
kind of,
but we adults were once teens, you know, and then
forget.
we say that we forget.
Yeah.
We forget
Yeah.
that we were children. We get crushes. We fall in love.
Yeah.
We make mistakes.
We make
I mean,
mistakes, and
yeah.
but I don't know.
I think parents just take this godly view.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we're older than you, we know better, we've been around.
Yeah, we're older than you. We know better.
And the people around us, they will think all sorts of things
Yeah.
about us. How did we, our child, we didn't bring you up to do this. We didn't. So it falls on them. The onus falls on them.
Yeah, it's a lot of, because there's this sense
Ego
of like,
pula. That sounds
it's
so
like you
egoistic,
reflect,
you know.
Yeah,
It
your
is,
actions
it is.
reflect on us. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's kind of also the thing that comes.
But I also want to say, I know some of your readers and people watching today are going to think that we're just like urban people
Yeah.
talking about an urban issue, and we are not grounded in reality about what's happening in the rural areas and stuff. But this applies to young people in rural areas as well, in situations with even lesser options to know what to do. So I'm hoping, and
Yeah.
and it's that this maybe gets translated
urban-
to Malaysia as well. But we need information. They need information. We need people like you to go out into communities in rural areas and Sabah Sarawak, etc., to sit down and have these conversations where young people are sitting in front and listening
Exactly.
to this.
I think
They don't have access. I feel really bad. I raise money to get you guys to go over there and listen to this conversation.
But I think
And
it's
just-
required.
true.
Yeah.
important.
I think
I
there
keep
needs to be
thinking
dialogue
about that,
with the kids.
That's one
It's
thing when I met
true.
Tini this morning. I said, like, we are making a lot of noise on social media, on the internet. We are talking about it. We are, sending memorandums to
Yeah.
Parliament. But that's a very, urban thing. The person or the girl in the kampung that
Yeah.
doesn't have internet,
In Kelantan
that,
or
that
Terengganu
that's not
or-
aware
yeah.
that,
And there's a lot of fear over speaking about it, because like in a lot of it's very taboo. They feel that if
Even
it's,
amongst themselves.
it's like if you talk about it, it happens more. I mean, that's why sex ed is
Yeah.
here, right? Because they feel you talk about sex ed, you're encouraging kids to have sex. So
No.
Talk about sex, you're giving them options to make sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have options to feel not have sex,
Yeah.
or taking precautions, but
Yeah.
definitely not being in a position where you get married off if you get pregnant, right? Because
Right.
that's not
The
going to come
more
out.
we suppress, the worse it's going to get. And we've
Yeah.
already seen the effects of it.
How many girls from rural areas come to KL to pergi kursus? That's what their parents
Yeah.
think, that they all gone for kursus. And come here for 9 months, then go for 6 months, and then go back, right? Because they're having the babies, handing the babies over, and then going back, right? And how many courses are out there? And I'm thinking to myself, parents, do you really think your kids? Doesn't anybody question that your child goes off for 5
I wonder
months?
whether people,
Go
parents especially, forget to listen to their
They
children.
forget to listen, and they forget to
Observe.
monitor
Yeah.
and
Pay
observe.
attention.
Pay attention. You cannot have a young girl walking around in loose clothes for 5 months or 6 months and not know something's up. It's not because she's put on weight.
Or
there's
just
reasons.
become more religious.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Why?
I just
Why do you say that?
Because
Because
they
they're all
wear
covered up.
the tudong labo.
Oh, I see.
Suddenly
you
they'll be
just
wearing
think-
this really tudong labo and
Yeah.
everything, and of course, I think to some extent, religion does step into. They take a little bit more. What's the word? Note of it, because they think, oh, we've done something wrong, so
Wrong,
maybe
yeah.
if I repent now, I start repenting now, it'll be better or something like that.
Then that goes back to the whole question of like, the fact that we're somehow, or it's somehow being perpetuated that you have, but you have committed this sin.
Yes, exactly.
and it's the end of the
it's
world.
the end of the world, and you need to repent.
That is the
because-
thing.
The
Yeah.
bertaubat
end of the
part
world.
is
Yeah.
just used so wrongly.
Yeah.
So
It's-
wrongly.
yeah.
Repent, and it's all done out of fear.
And
everything, yeah.
The onus is all on the girl. Everything. You
This poor
repent.
child.
You are the one who did it. You are the
You yang
sinner.
bawa malu, kamulah yang bertaubat, kamulah yang
Okay.
really.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to put out some solutions, some ideas.
Want to see my mind map? No, kidding. I know, I'm
We
obsessed
might
about
have
the
to
mind map.
publish
We
her
might
mind
have
map.
to
Yeah.
put that. That might be
Yeah.
pretty spectacular. Yeah.
So I want to
Yeah.
offer some solutions, like when it comes to rurals. I mean, I'm hoping that there is a teacher out there who's watching this, or if we could pass it along to teachers, because I think the one person that can get directly
Yeah.
to teens or have access to more teens or
think
children are
we need
teachers,
Get
because
parents involved as well.
parents, yes, you know, I'm
Yeah.
talking to
But
parents all the time, but I think
with the
But I
teachers.
think also a lot of these cases, especially yang adik-adik yang kat luar tu yang, you know, who's going through this at this moment. I know you talk to your friends, kan? And your friends, you know, maybe we can have support groups for teens, and so teens know how to help other teens, because teens definitely don't talk to parents,
Yeah.
you know, and or definitely not to us. Sometimes, maybe but it's a little too late. I think, you know, I'm going to talk about my mum a little. Some of the things is we need to stop looking just at intervention and what happens after you get pregnant. We need to do a lot more of what happens before you get pregnant. A lot of more prevention
Yeah.
programs and stuff. A lot of talking, a lot of support groups, a lot of options. We need to also bring in the traditional, cultural and religious and leaders to sit down and say, you know what, mistakes happen. It's not even a mistake. Things happen. But what you need to do is, what do we do and how do we help and how do
let's
we
forget the whole how it happened.
how it happens, it's happened.
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Yeah.
And
Deed
what
is
can we do
done,
to make
so
sure it doesn't
next
happen
step.
to the next person or
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
person? And you know, this whole kindness attitude and this empathy is so lacking in how we treat the girls alone. I go back to that 18-year-old who was in labor for 6 hours and who the baby died in the toilet and she died, and I just think 6 hours of being alone and being in pain and being afraid, we cannot happen again. It could have been prevented.
Everything in that
And
instance
you know,
could have been prevented.
you are not going to get arrested, you know, because there should be enough of us to help that poor girl and that guy, you know, and there has to be more educational programs for boys, and they, you know, it's not just the girl. I mean, you know.
So do you think, like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate now and say, like, you know, that whole case, what if she was married off to someone?
She most probably would have been.
You know, would that have?
I don't know.
yeah.
I would like to think. I would like to think she had more options than that.
Yeah.
But she obviously didn't. It just
But even like,
kills
I mean,
me.
like, I'm 40 years old and I can't even get married right, you know. I'm still learning about marriage, you know. So I cannot wrap my mind about getting 11 or even a 16-year-old. I mean, I've had friends who were teens and had to get married because of, you know, teen
You're
pregnancy.
not-
But
yeah.
But I now that I'm an adult, married adult with kids, I can't wrap my mind how they went through marriage. I mean, was it even a marriage? You know,
Probably not.
or was it just a quick out? Yeah, a quick
I
fix.
think it was
Quick out for who? Quick
Yeah.
out for adults,
Yeah.
right? You know, I mean, I think if you look at the policy changes, and just jumping in for a bit, but if you look at the policy changes and what's happening now, it's that, you know, judges and chief ministers who decide on these child marriages will decide after they get, you know, the hospital or the police thing. That's what they say they're
Yeah.
going to do
Yeah.
with the amendments and stuff. But at the end of the day, the shame and the what is best for the child is on the judge and the chief minister, and it's also yes. And I really don't think it's good. They're going to say child marriage is going to save this girl. Let marry her off.
Yeah.
You know, you need to
Why
change
does
that.
I think they have to add a side
Yeah,
check
why
as
does
well.
she need to be saved? Why is her life over because she's pregnant? And,
Why
you know,
does she need to
this
be
is not a Western thinking. It's like, why is her life over because she's pregnant? I don't understand. This
again,
is
it's
2018. This is not 1950s. That's what I was telling a friend. You say, this is not 1950. This is 2018. You cannot go around. It doesn't mean you're going to have teen pregnant girls running all over the place because you say we need sex education and we say the girl has option. That is not the end of the world because we say that,
I
right?
wonder.
Empowering the
Oh.
woman.
Might have to play devil's advocate, right? I wonder if child marriage was off the table, illegal, completely taboo, you know, in the sense where it's not an option. I wonder whether it would galvanize parents to actually go, there's no out. this is not an option. I have to force myself to think of realistic other avenues for my child. She has to get an education. She has to, or he, sorry, he or she has to get an education. They have to be self-sufficient. Like, I wonder if we take the option of child marriage off the table and have the understanding that nope, you're not going to get the protection or the saving that comes with being married. You have to be able to think of realistic ways to care for this little human that's about to show up, or for whatever other reason that motivated them. I wonder if that changes the view on
But we should try that. We should try and do a pilot project. The government and policymakers should say, let's try that option. You know, let's try it out and see what happens.
Because I think like one of the things that you know, I feel like it's become something that is such a socially acceptable and easy out that it's like, okay, let's just marry them off and then worry about the rest later. You know, but I always tell the young people who come in to see me, I say, you choose to follow through with all of this because your parents say so, society says so, but one day, I'm so sorry, parents are going to be gone, society is going to be gone, and you are going to be the one looking back on a life that you may not have chosen for yourself with a young person or a little human that you may not be equipped to care for, or in a marriage that you never asked for. And so, you know,
in a marriage that you're not probably, there's possibility you might not be happy with.
Exactly. But these are all, you know, and again, we go back to the ability of, you know, teenagers or children to have that foresight, to have that ability to think of multiple perspectives. Those are all skills that they aren't able to do at this stage in their life. And so that's where the role of that's why I say I'm always curious about the conversations being had by the adults in the room. And so I feel that if, you know, we are able to get into communities and have these types of conversations where all we have to do is take the people in the situation, whether it's the parents or the teachers or the young people or the community leaders or whatever, and I like to say you pick them up from where they are and you put them over here and get them to look at it from a different perspective, whether that will completely change the conversation.
Or just simply listen. I think as adults, one of the hardest thing for us to do is you know, when we have the sense of authority, we forget to listen, you know, like
No, but I feel like a lot of adults are so malu.
malu to talk about it.
For adults as well as the teachers. I mean, there are teachers who are very young from these rural areas. They themselves haven't had sex education. They themselves haven't been exposed to the world, and then when they've been kind of given this burden or whatever, just talk
And
about
because
sex.
we've not had the exposure. So, you know, the only thing we've had these issues.
You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid that, you know, because we've been working on this issue, I've been working on this issue since 2005. I don't want to have the same conversation 5 years from now.
Exactly.
And you know what I'm afraid? That we will. And things have to change. I'm really happy that the DPM announced what she did and it's a process and we get there. But we better not be in the same place 5 years from now, and the process must move. Must move.
The next steps must
You know,
be placed.
we don't want to have higher numbers of baby dumping. We don't want to have higher numbers of child marriages. We don't want to have a thing. And I'm going back to the whole idea that, you know, we had that census in 2001, and, you know, and the applications for child marriages were so high, and the number of child marriages were so high. The census is coming out next year and the year after. I want to see those numbers. But you know what? We know what those numbers are going to be. The numbers are going to be higher than 100,000, or, you know, how many thousands of children in applications. So please, you know, let's just change that and you know, stop talking about the what ifs and stuff, and just do the work, and just everybody play their part and get involved.
The thing that always the moment that always makes me go like, you know, is like when my colleagues from other parts of the world, and like most recently, like the cases of child marriage coming out in the papers about the older gentleman marrying the 11-year-old. I mean, it was everywhere. It wasn't just Malaysia. Like there were other countries publishing it. And so I'd have colleagues who are psychologists calling me from Australia, from the UK, and they're just like, they're like, what is going on? This is, you know, because of course the articles would state that it was, you know, that he was
Lusting
oh gosh, like he was, you know, he wanted to marry her since she was 7 years old.
Yeah, it's grooming.
It's grooming, and you know, and that it's pedophilia. And so my colleagues were like, you do realize this is pedophilia, right? And the fact that it's somehow spoken of in a way where the parents felt it was a better. I mean, I have to you know, accept that these families who condone it are often motivated by their own personal reasons,
Of
right?
course,
And we
yes.
have to appreciate that. But it was really jarring for me when my colleagues would be like, "You do realize it's 2018." Right? Like,
Yeah.
is this really something? Is this like a one-off? Like, is this something that's like? I was like, no,
It should be illegal then.
it's
Yeah.
not a one-off. It really isn't. It's happening here, and it's crazy because no matter, we are as a country, we're developing so quickly, but then there are certain pockets of it like
Yeah.
this where we cling so tightly to, and I wonder why. I wonder what it is that is propelling this constant need.
But
to,
one of the things when that whole case came up, what worried me most is like, okay, because she did say suka sama suka, right?
She's a
The girl-
child. She doesn't
yeah.
get to give consent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I realized like when she
hasn't
grows
even got her
older,
IC.
yeah, no IC yet also. Yeah. Like when she grows older and realizes this is not what she wants, it's not easy for her to get out of it either. So so I was just so
It flies in the face. Just the year before, the government passed the Protection of Children Act,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
But yet this is still illegal.
Yeah.
It's sanctioned. So
Yeah.
it's really.
I think you need to take
Child marriage is not illegal in this country, so just we
Yep.
need to
Yeah, so
remember
yeah.
that. So it was in conflict with SOAS, with the social,
Yeah,
the
yes, it is.
sexual
Yeah, yes.
offensive.
offences.
So our grooming, I filed that police report against that man, and it was rendered ineffective because child marriage is not illegal in this country. So that particular article under SOAS was rendered useless. We couldn't use it. Yeah. So our laws are not
How
in
does that override that law?
because the religious law is
Yeah, we
different.
have two different-
And our Sharia law is under state. It's not under thing. No implementation. I wasn't called in. Yeah, I wasn't called in to give a statement to the police in Kelantan, even though I filed the police report
Yeah.
against the man. Wasn't done because it's not illegal.
But I think to some extent you should take away the parents' power. They're not allowed. It should just
illegal.
Illegal.
Enough.
Like you said, just
Say
remove
it.
the thing.
The Prime
You see,
Minister
giving
said
the parent
the
power
Prime
to say
Minister said
yes
child
or
marriage
no.
shouldn't happen. The Prime Minister has said it's like, please everybody listen to the Prime Minister. It says it's
What
done.
we should do, instead of saying to people or saying to young people that the religious authorities will arrest you for having a child, we should tell adults the religious authorities will arrest you for marrying a child
Yes.
underage.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my God! Yes, yes.
we
That's
should
it.
do that.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the
yes,
key.
yes.
We've solved the problem. Let's do that, and then we're done. We're done.
Okay, so are we done?
Yeah. That's the solution we've
No,
come
I
up
think
with.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. But how long are we? How far away are we from that? That's a
yeah.
question that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So what we can do are like tiny steps, right?
Yeah.
No, bigger tiny steps.
Bigger tiny steps.
You need to take a leap, actually.
We need bigger tiny steps. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so now it's a step-by-step thing. We
Yeah,
know that,
within
right?
the
First step is happening now. We want to also reach out to communities. I think even if, what do you think if we just ask people out there, come on, in your neighborhood,
Can't you set up
can't you just
set up little groups
something,
with people who can
I
guide?
mean,
or
everyone's
help
got a
you?
community WhatsApp chat group,
Yes.
okay?
I'm waiting for an app that would just like allow it with professionals helping to man the hotline or whatever it
Yeah.
is for young people to write in or type
Yes.
in your
Yeah.
questions
that-
and just say and then we can direct them because Childline is an amazing thing, but I think we need to improve on Childline because really no one's going to wait on the
I
phone
think
for
also
5
that
minutes.
you're calling
to-
it Childline. Also, the teenagers are like, it's a child line.
It's a child line.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I'm
apply
not a
to
child. I'm
call
not
it
a
a teen
child.
line. We're not a child, and you can't wait on that phone for 5 minutes. And they're like, "Where do you live?" Like, what? We're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
You have to ask the right questions, right? Sorry, but it's true. You have to ask the right. It's not who are you, where are you. They're not going to answer.
And you need
someone
multilingual
empathic.
people.
Yeah.
Across the
And
board.
not no one's there. Transfer you.
So,
But we
okay,
need community.
app creators out there as well.
Yes,
Do
yes,
something.
do
Help the
something.
government. Yeah.
And when you create your app, don't just think about the urban people. Make
Yes.
money and then go out into
Yeah.
the rural areas
It's
and
gotta be
then
Malay also,
and
yeah.
then share it out there.
Yeah.
I think that
And child marriage among the non-Muslims also. Yeah.
Yes.
The numbers were the same.
Yeah, it's the same. It's not just like with
Yeah.
with Islamic like communities,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then I think we have to liken this whole topic with things like, for me, it's very much like speaking about special needs, right? So
Yes.
when I came back from the UK, people were not talking about autism, they were not talking about ADHD, and there were all these children who were getting support, but parents themselves were too afraid to come forward. And so, you know, all of us who were trying to address it, we were like, you know what? Trying to campaign about this is not working. What we need to do is just make as much noise and get people to normalize the topic and talk about it.
Yes.
And so what we did as psychologists and teachers, we ditched the whole like, you know, talking about assessments and all that. We just talked about it in a very like, you know, conversational way. And so I feel like this is exactly like that, where we have to strip it back and have people just talking about it. We're not expecting you to be able to come up with maybe massive you know, movements at this point. Like I say, it's
Yeah.
big little steps. And I think that even starting with communities or people who are willing to organize talks and have all
Yes.
of this, it will make a bigger impact than you realize. Because I mean, 7 years on, everyone's talking about autism now, everyone's talking about special needs now, and this is something that shifted literally in 5 years. It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, I just realized that we've talked about this for more than 30 minutes.
Good.
Yeah, because now I've been told that we have 5 minutes left. So usually in the last 5 minutes, we try to, you know, get everyone to have a few words that they want to share. Lina, you might have to come closer or speak up a bit because you're so lemah lembut. I cakap. Semua orang kata
Let's go.
so yeah, maybe Lina wants to start, and then we'll just go around and just say a few words that about the topic.
I mean, I think essentially the law has to be changed. Full stop. I mean, we just have to, we just can't sanction pedophilia. If it's in that context where the 40-year-old marries 11 people, allow 15-year-olds to marry each other, we have to give them options. I believe it also has to come at grassroots level, government, policy, you know, the people at schools. These, I mean, even as a teen, I remember not being able to speak to my parents, and you know, they're quite progressive people.
See, she's still scared.
It's sort of that, it's still that barrier, you know, that disrespect you do have for your parents. Like, I can't disappoint them, whatever, you know. So you speak to your friends, and then you don't really speak to your teachers because they're just, you know, asking for homework. But I feel like, and there was no sex education. Come on, let's face it. I think adults still have this malu, this shame, this barrier as well to the young people. Sex education has to start, and in a way where it's going to lead and work and get to the people that we need it, like the people in the rural communities.
Yeah.
I mean, we have access to information because we have smartphones. A lot of people do have smartphones. Sometimes they use it for the wrong things, to access deep, dark web sort of things, and you know, to groom and stuff like that. I mean, that also requires education for the child to protect themselves, to save themselves from predators. And then, you know, if they fall in love and have crushes and something happens, it's also something they have to speak to their teachers. So the whole culture of shame, malu, I think we just have to be less malu in that sense. We have to just have that perception kind of shift. And be a bit more humanistic, I think, ultimately. Abortions ultimately sometimes are the answer because they have no way out. But it's also, you know, it's her choice. We have to educate them, you know, boys and girls. So I think education.
Katyana?
I feel like whenever, you know, I was thinking about this topic, I wish I could ask adults, parents, policymakers, why is it that you feel a child is not old enough to vote? Why is it that you feel that the child's not old enough to get a driver's license until a certain age? What motivated you to come up with that decision? You're probably going to come to an answer that says they're too young, they're too immature, they don't have the ability, so why should they be allowed, or why should they be coerced into a marriage, which is a pretty grown up. I mean, I'm 30 and I'm like, whoa, you know. So it is the ultimate adult kind of responsibility, adult act, and yet somehow we are choosing to ignore all of the things that have told us that children are too young to drive, too young to vote, too young to drink, too young to buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
And yet it's completely
Marriage
fine.
is fine.
Marriage is
Marriage is
fine.
fine, yeah.
So I feel that, you know, as we take steps in this direction, as we're finally, you know, talking about it and bringing attention towards it, I would like so much for the people in the room, whether it's parliament, whether it's in a house, the adults in the room, to ask yourself, if my child or if children are not allowed to reach these milestones, which are, you know, the epitome of adulthood, being able to vote, being able to drive and all that, if they are too young and too immature to execute those things, why should they be allowed to get married? So that's kind of what I keep asking myself whenever I read up about this. And so I think that a sense of empathy is so important, in the sense where I hope that people start thinking about how this impacts young people, think about look at this topic from a very different viewpoint, and not just what culture and history and all dictate, and I think that would start pushing us in a good direction. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Sheerin? I think education is very important, and a support system. The parents need to come out of their shell. They need to start, you know, you were a teenager once, so let's not take the godly view and say, oh, you know, I've experienced, but, you know, step into the shoes of the child and say, okay, so where are we now, you know, and like you said, you know, don't give them access to something that is tangible, that they can actually, don't stand up there with with a iron fist and say, you know, this is the way it's supposed to be, because, you know, eons and eons of conditioning, whatever not. And, you know, education is very important, because the kids that we see don't even, to some extent, don't even know what's happened to them. We had one girl who said, you know, I just ignored it because I thought it would go away. Pregnancy would go away. So how did that notion actually just, you know, end up?
Some don't even know that they can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
You know,
know.
so it's just, and they go to school, and they're exposed to all sorts of things, and I know that we're exposed to everything online and Facebook and whatever not, but we see the end result of it, and then nothing else, you see.
Yeah.
So there's no follow through. So children tend to think, oh, fairy tales so nice, whatever, blah blah blah. Remove all of that and give them the reality to some extent. Okay, so it's a bit harsh. They give them,
You know,
a reality check as well, as the parents as well, and everybody needs to. There's support has to be there from every faction, government, all the way up to the parents and the people, the community, even the peers, because the peers themselves will, you know, point at each other and say, you know, so that's shame and shame and shame and shame and shame. So you cannot take all that burden. One girl, the boy is running scot-free. Sorry, I'm sorry again.
You know, I'm part of the Pelajar Bukan Pengantin movement,
Yes.
right? Which is made up of different NGOs and individuals and teachers and schools, because we were outraged at what was happening with sole issue on child marriage. So we went and we sent, the children wanted to give the memorandums to the MPs on Tuesday night, goosebumps, because, you know, I think it's a wonderful platform for children and young people to be able to say, this is what we want, because their voices are never heard. I mean, I'm sitting around the table and you're all very young, you could be children, but I'm not. And, you know, and we need to hear the young people and the adults sitting around and telling everybody and telling the adults and policy makers what they want.
Okay.
IBC is now open.
IBC is now open.
IBC is now open.
So we need more movements like this to be able to identify the community, to be able to identify the needs, the gaps, what we need to do. We need groups like ours, more groups like ours, or join ours, to say, let's go out and do something, come up with a plan, let's help the government, let's help policymakers, let's, you know, identify what's needed, you know, and to send the message out to young pregnant girls and boys who find themselves in this position, not that their boys are pregnant, but you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are others like you, and there are places for you to get help. Minta tolong. And if you don't know how to tell your parents, we will help you tell your parents. You must tell your parents. And getting married is not the
not
end
the-
result. It's
yeah,
not
not the
the end of the
option.
world, and it's you're not your only option. In this, malu tu malu kejap aja.
Yeah.
But the responsibility and the babies and the marriage is a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, call
Think
and ask
wisely.
and think
Yeah.
wisely.
Yeah.
Call the support
Or ask,
groups, anybody,
yeah.
you know.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a couple of numbers
Yeah.
in the caption when
Yeah,
we
you
post
can
this,
this thing and yeah.
so that
You know, a lot of the young people, girls, get me on Facebook and Twitter, yeah?
yeah.
So they send, and I don't want them
I don't know
to
whether
feel
Dr.
like
Tini
that.
wants to share her
You
personal.
can have my number!
Yeah. So we're going to put a couple of numbers at the bottom or in the caption when we post the video. I'm just going to summarize and
It's such an
say,
emotional issue.
yeah, that one, parents, you have to start listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two, parents, teachers, you have to start sharing. If you're too embarrassed to talk about this or you're not sure how to approach this, there are so many
Many,
videos. There are so many people you can follow on Facebook. You know, I don't know whether your account's full,
Yeah,
but
no.
you know,
No, it's not,
But
but you can,
but
yeah.
you know, you can get the awareness out there. If you can't do it yourself, you can get the awareness out there.
Yeah.
And to the teenagers that may be watching this, if you decide to get married, that is your choice that you have, but you have to understand that marriage is not
it has to
fairy
be an
tale.
informed choice.
It is not often happy ever after like what you read. It's a learning process. There are other options out there, as
Yeah.
mentioned. You know, education is always the key. Educate yourself. You know, whether it's, you know, have an ambition that you feel that is the best thing that will make you the best version of yourself. Gain that for yourself, and don't forget that you have a voice and you have the ability to speak up. So please do speak up, do share. You are not alone, as we have said over and over
You're not
again.
alone.
You are not alone. You may feel at that moment in time that this is happening to you alone,
Yeah.
but sayang, it is not that you are alone. You need to speak up. We are here for you.
Yep.
You can find us, I think, all on Facebook, whether it's Her World, Cleo.
You're on Instagram too, right?
We are on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Sheerin,
OrphanCare.
OrphanCare. Whether we can help you directly or indirectly, we are here to listen to you.
Yeah.
So don't forget that we are listening. So till the next hangout at Dome with Her World. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time. Thank you guys for
Thank you
joining.
for
Thank you
the
for
opportunity.
having us.
Thank
Thank you.